Continuing on with our introduction to the basics of the Gospel of Romans. We are working on step 3. Step 3 covers Romans 3:21 through the end of chapter 5. And this is dealing with faith. Specifically, it covers the first sin problem, which is the fact that we have all sinned. We have to get those sins forgiven, and we do that by faith in the sacrifice of Messiah on the cross. Let's read about that. Let's start in verse 23 of chapter 3. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So this is introducing the problem of the first sin problem, and it's saying that we're going to have a solution to this problem now. Being justified or made righteous freely by his grace through the redemption or buying out of the slave market that is in Messiah Yeshua, whom God set forth as a propitiation or a covering by his blood through faith to demonstrate his righteousness, because in his forbearance God has passed over the sins that were previously committed, to demonstrate at the present time his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Yeshua. So when we have faith in Yeshua, we have faith in the fact that he has died for our sins, then we get those sins forgiven. And that covers our first sin problem. But you'll notice that it also talks about the idea of demonstrating righteousness. So once we have our sins covered, then the purpose of that is so that we can come into his presence and he can fix us so that we can actually have righteous actions. And so let's talk about the idea that faith is a foundation of the entire gospel. Let's go back to our summary of the gospel back in chapter 1. In verses 16 and 17, we have a summary of the gospel, and here again we're going to emphasize this idea of faith. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Messiah, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes. Belief and faith and trust, all the same thing. For the Jew first and also for the Greek, for in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. So faith is not something that you have at the beginning and then you're done with it. This is something that you have to use at every step of the way. So let's look at the idea of faith. How does that work? When you have when someone is giving you a present, okay, faith reaches out and takes that present. If you have an academic faith, then you'll look at that present and you'll say, oh, that's a very nice present. You'll know all about the contents and the paper on it and the ribbon, and you know all about that stuff. But it doesn't do you any good, okay? Academic faith doesn't reach out and get the present. Only effective faith reaches out and grabs that present. Let's talk about some examples of that so that you understand the difference. If someone is giving you a cup of water because you're thirsty, okay, If you look at that cup of water and you know all about it, you know the chemical compound of the water, you know all about the cup, you know all about, the person giving it to you, that doesn't do you any good. You're still thirsty, right? But if you reach out and you grab that cup of water and you drink it, well, now you're taking care of your body. There's chemical reactions going on that is going to help you, right? So that's active faith. Forgiveness. If you know about the cross and you believe that that event happened, that's academic faith. Does you no good. Okay. A lot of people, they believe that Yeshua died for their sins, and they've actually given those sins to Yeshua, but they kept hold of those sins. Okay. And so now they have a guilt complex. Now, why do they have a guilt complex if Yeshua really did die for those sins and they're forgiven? That's because they're still holding on to it. They didn't really give them to Yeshua for forgiveness. Okay? Each step of the way, we're going to be using faith. And faith has to be active in order for it to be effective. And this is mentioned in James. In James it says faith without works is dead. James 2 covers this topic in an entire chapter. So each step of the way, you're going to have to do something to reach out and grab that present that God is giving you. Now, He is the one who invented the water. He's the one who poured it into the glass. He's the one who made the glass. He's the one who is handing it to you. He's the one who makes the chemical reactions in your body work. He's the one who does everything except for one thing, and that is for us to reach out and grab it. That's the one thing that we have to do. And at every step of the way, He's going to ask us to do one little thing. That one little thing is the way that we're going to reach out and grab that thing that He is giving to us. Now, He does everything. It's all grace from start to finish. Okay, it's all grace, except for the fact that we have to grab it and take it ourselves. Okay, so So this is the difference between an academic type of faith and an effective faith. An effective faith is going to reach out and grab those things. And this is how works gets into the mix. There's actually two issues of works. First issue is the fact that we have to reach out and grab that thing that He is giving to us, all of those resources. And then the second thing is that when we do grab it, it makes a chemical reaction within us that produces the works of God. And that's how we demonstrate His righteousness, by simply having faith in Him. Okay, chapter 4 takes a whole chapter to talk about the idea that this faith idea is not anything new. This is something that is in the Old Testament, something that Abraham had back in Genesis 15:6. He had this. David had this. So this is not something that is new in the New Testament. This is something that has always been along. From the very beginning, God is the one who's been giving us everything. He made the world that we live in. He teaches us. He does everything, except we have to grab it and take it to ourselves, okay, so that it can do that work inside of us. And all of the stories in the Old Testament are about that. Everyone you see in the Old Testament, they're either reaching out and grabbing that present and having God flow through them, or they're not reaching out and grabbing that present and missing the blessing. So this is the point that he is making in chapter 4. And this is very important for people who are from a Jewish background. So if you ever talk to someone from a Jewish background, this piece of information will be very, very valuable to them. But for us right now, just the basic thing is that we have to understand that we have to reach out and grab whatever God is giving to us. In each step, he's going to be giving us something huge, okay? And it is our job to do the one little thing that he's asking us to do in that step in order to reach out and grab it. So we have to figure out, what is he wanting to give us, and what do we have to do to get that? And then God can flow through us and produce works, okay? Huge miracles, all kinds of stuff he can produce through us once we are in union with that particular issue that he's working on us with. So every step of the way, we're going to be using faith. Faith is going to be integral to everything that we do in life, in as far as the path and our relationship with God. Okay, so this covers the past sin, the first sin problem, and it also is a principle that we're going to be using every step of the way. So that is step 3 in Romans, the Gospel of Romans.